I'm over here talking and my mic's not on. I hope you guys can hear me. I only see that one person is here. Hello to whoever you are. I'm sorry for my tardiness. Today is so hot where I am. I'm in Toronto, Canada. We are in the midst of another heat wave. It broke for like a day or two and then right back to it. Today it's like 30 degrees and it feels like 40 something degrees. I know that a lot of you are American, so you're probably like, what the hell are you talking about? That's not hot. But in Canada, we do Celsius. If I'm to look at it so it's like 33 feels like 40, which I would have changed it to Fahrenheit just so like you guys can know what exactly I'm talking about. It is 91 degrees Fahrenheit and it feels like 104. So it's super hot here in Toronto, Canada. But I really don't like to complain because our winters are long. This winter was a terrible winter. It was super cold this winter. It reminded me of the winters that we had in the 90s. So I was actually ready on time, but I really wanted to take my dog out for a quick little bathroom break because I don't want any accidents in my house. So I needed that little 15-minute reprieve. All right. So today, the Christian God is evil, and we're talking about why God demands innocent blood. I'm gonna just give it a few moments, see if anybody pops in. Let's say I'll start at maybe the 5-minute mark. It's at the 2-minute and 43 seconds. So say hi to me, to the one person, if you could just say hello in the chat. That would be amazing. What else? I do have some announcements though. Okay, so I have been monetized as I partially monetized. I'll be fully monetized once I meet 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours, which I'm quickly approaching. So please like, share, comment, get this video, help this video get out there, right? That's a free thing you could do. And now I can receive super chats, which will go towards, things like just this channel. Like I would love, I personally am trying to get used to Restream. I like Restream. However, I'm a creature of habit. Okay. And as a creature of habit, I miss StreamYard. I miss my videos. Here I can only do about 3 videos. And then it cuts off before you have to pay. It is significantly cheaper, but I think it only goes up to like 5 videos, where I had a whole, maybe 20 something little clips and videos that I liked to do as part of my show that made it funny, that like created this lighthearted, feel to sometimes serious topics. So my monetization will definitely go towards pushing to just create the best channel that I can. So I appreciate anything that anyone's willing to give. I also have my PayPal, not in this description. I don't think I put a description in the box just yet. I was actually trying to figure that out with Restream. It let me before, but when I came back and I wanted to put it in, I couldn't figure it out. So that was a little odd. Sorry, I need the water. Like I said, this heat wave is getting to me. I literally probably slept majority of the day away. Got up, got a shower, refreshed so that I could come out here fresh-minded. And yeah, so let me also pull up the screen share because I got to share my screen so you can see the verses that I'm going to pull up. I don't actually have them ready, to be honest, because I have them listed here though. Okay, so we're at the 5-minute mark. Still the one person. I'm okay with that. I know people usually come by and watch later. So it is what it is. If you see me looking over, I have my notes. So welcome to my Sunday revival. Thank you to everybody who did the poll. and talked about what they wanted me to speak of. It was kind of a tie, how you guys decided. So I merged the topics. Together. So today we're introducing, like today's focus will be, we're going to explore a dark and disturbing pattern in the Bible. It's one where God seems to constantly punish the innocent for the sins of others. From cursed bloodlines to dead babies, unalived babies. I gotta really watch my words here. To full-on human sacrifice, right? Even the crucifixion of his own son. Okay, what kind of justice is that? I don't know. Something that I've really been taking in lately. I've been watching a particular TikToker. His name is it Javarius? Shit. My God, I cannot remember his name right now for the life of me. But he often speaks on Jephthah. I cannot pronounce the name. Jephthah, and his daughter, and why God would accept a human sacrifice. It got my wheels turning on why he needed a sacrifice, period. So we're going to get into that. But before we do get into that, I do want to actually play my intro. Hold on. Cancel this. What's going on? I'm still getting used to this, y'all. Cancel. What is the tab that? Oh, here. See, okay, I'm back. See, I didn't even see that. I don't understand. And it's fine. I didn't want me to be, okay, I don't know why it's doing this to me. But let's get into it. Share. And it's like everything that could go wrong is going wrong right now for me, y'all. Like, my ring light just died. Why is this screen still there? I don't understand what's going on. How do I get rid of this? Hold on, y'all. Remove. Here we go. And then could I be... Okay. Cool. Fine. I'll stick with this, I guess. Or maybe I would like to focus on, you know what? I'll switch in between as I'm talking. We'll do this one. And just see, I think my mouse is dead too. It's connected. Yes. Okay. Thank God. Okay. Apologies. So let's get into this. I do need to bring up the scripture that I'm going to bring up just now. I was speaking of announcements. I did episode 4 of my Bible deconstruction series that I have going on Patreon. I did change the pricing, and I also slimmed it down just because I need to be realistic with my time. I got so excited about the channel and everything. I wanted to do all these things that I had planned, but I really don't have the time to do it in this moment. So I decided that I would build up to it, but I do want to continue the Bible deconstruction. I am reading the Bible from the beginning, Genesis, all throughout to the end. I'm on Genesis chapter 19, as you can see, which is what we'll be doing this week, which is the doom of Sodom. I'm super excited about this, y'all. I'm super excited about Sodom and Gomorrah because I've never really read it for what it is. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very, very interesting for us all. So let's talk about part one of this. Sorry, I feel so flustered because I feel like I rushed in here. I'm sorry. I need to just, it's okay. I'm here now. We can discuss. So part one of this is God punishing people for other people's sins, right? So God frequently hands out punishments of the wrong, not to the wrongdoer, but to their families, their descendants, or even sometimes whole nations. This is completely unfair to me, at least from my point of view. He has his favorites. Sometimes he punishes them, like we saw how he did with Job. He offered him up as a sacrifice to prove some type of sick joke, which we discussed in a previous The Christian God is Evil. But let's just read the text. So the scripture that I'm going to is Exodus 20, verse 5, which is in the 10 Commandments. Let me go to, we'll go to verse 5. And there's a couple of different scriptures. I think I have a different scripture on my phone than I do on here, but I'm just going to read what you guys see. So it says, "You shall not worship them nor serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, inflicting the punishment of the fathers on the children, on the third and fourth generations of those who hate me, but showing favor," and I'll continue, right? "But showing favor to thousands, to those who love me and keep my commandments." Right? So, and just reading this, I'm remembering that a rabbi that I follow on TikTok, her name is Rabbi Hannah, and she actually had a different distinction of what this meant when he said, "You shall not worship them nor serve them, for I am a jealous God." He wasn't actually saying that you couldn't have other gods around. They just couldn't be in his presence, apparently. But for me, it's the inflicting the punishment of the fathers on the children, and on the third and fourth generations of those who hate me, right? So again, God inflicting pain and punishment on those who do not agree with him, who don't worship him, who don't love him the way that he feels, right? This is an example of where God has shown up and showed us that he will inflict pain on others on the behalf of the sins of someone else, which I don't think is fair. I don't think is all loving. I believe that Christians would say that, Jesus dying on the cross took away this somehow, but I would debate that is untrue. One, because biblically, I'm not on the path of believing that Jesus was the Messiah. As I further deconstruct and I read the Bible and I read what it says, not what I want it to say, but when I read the text for what it is, I see a blatant discrepancy between the story of what the Messiah will do when he comes, as opposed to what actually Jesus did and accomplished as the Son of God, quote unquote. So yeah, that was definitely interesting. Another scripture that we've seen before, and I'm just going through the scriptures and then we're going to break things down, right, would be in the 2nd Samuel, right? We've talked about this story before. Oops, not Exodus, my bad. I want 2 Samuel. And we are going to chapter 12. 13 through 18. I'll just highlight. Let's read it, and then I like to keep note of stuff, as you know. So in 13 it says, "Then David said to Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. And Nathan said to David, the Lord also has allowed your sin to pass. You shall not die," which was the punishment for adultery, which he had committed. But God spared him, right? "However, since by this deed you have shown utter disrespect for the Lord, the child himself who is born to you shall certainly die." Then Nathan went to his house. Later, the Lord struck the child that Uriah's widow bore to David, so that he was very sick. David therefore pleaded with God for the child, and David fasted and went and lay all night on the ground. The elders of his household stood beside him in order to help him up from the ground, but he was unwilling and would not eat food with them. Then it happened. Then it happened on the 7th day that the child died, and David's servants were afraid to tell him that the child was dead, for they said, "Behold, while the child was still alive, we spoke to him, and he did not listen to us. How then can we tell him that the child is dead, since he might do himself harm?" And this is obviously David's sins were penance by killing an innocent baby, an innocent infant child. And again, just not even thinking of how that would do to Bathsheba, who I feel, although she did do the act with David, she was kind of like, it's kind of like a king comes to your door to come get you, right? Sends his people to come get you. You're going to go. The king wants to lay with you. You're going to lay with the king. He's the king, right? There's no saying no, especially in these days. So she's been put in this situation, right, where she's now a widow of the man that she did love, who was her husband Uriah, who was murdered by her now new husband, David. She finds out she's pregnant and with child with David, and then she has to hear this child suffer with crying and pain for 7 days before God finally takes this child. No thought for how that affects her, right? She lost her husband. Now she loses her child. And what's even more sinister about this part of the text is just how, David kind of like, all right, my fasting and praying didn't work, ate a meal, then went back and slept with her again, which we know now as like disgusting, because you have to wait at least 6 weeks to have intercourse, right? She just gave birth. Her body wasn't prepared for this. Things that at least God would have known, right? Like you could plead the ignorance of the people of the time, but God created the body, right? According to this Bible. So he would have known that it probably wasn't sanitary, infection, and things like that. That at least 6 weeks should be waited before having intercourse again. Again, even David thinking like that's something that Bathsheba would have really wanted to do at that moment after just losing her child, losing her husband, is crazy to me. I can't fathom it. I can't see it. And I don't really know too many women Christian or not, that could look at that and think that that was okay. In fact, I've heard many Christians say, oh, it's not okay, but it was the times. That's what they blame it on, the times. This God who is past, who knows all past, present, and future, is somehow bound by times, the time of humanity, the time that he would have created himself. It's just very weird to me. But again, yet another example of when someone else was sacrificed for the sins of his beloved people, that he loved, that he held dear to his heart, right? Sparing David, but not sparing the child, an innocent baby at that. And we also know that in this verse, it continues on and it tells us that this child was not the end game for it, right? I don't have it here, which is confusing because it's just coming to my mind now, but we know that as part of the punishment as well, David's wives were raped. I gotta get used to this. Were raped, right? In public, amongst for everybody to see, because of David's sin as well. So it wasn't just the child, it was the wives as well. So to me, that seems pretty friggin' evil. You're gonna grape a group of women for the whole time. It's not embarrassing enough. And trigger warning, because I know if there's women watching, there may be someone who has been a victim of sexual assault, right? So I should have said trigger warning before I just kind of spat that out. So I apologize if I triggered you, but it's in fact true that this happened. And it's just another showcase of the Christian God just doing deplorable things, right? In the name of his favorites. If you also follow me to Numbers 14, verse 8, is it? No, 18. Numbers 14, verse 18. This is where he punishes the children for the sins of the parents to the third and fourth generation, as we said, as was quoted in Exodus. Numbers 14, verse 18, right? This is about people rebelling. Hold on. I took notes, but I usually have a chance to go through it all. And like I said, it's just been so hot, and I literally have been sleeping the majority of the day away. It's just too hot. So even starting at 17. So now please let the power of the Lord be great, just as you declared, saying, the Lord is slow to anger and abundant in mercy, forgiving wrongdoing and violation of his law, but he will by no means leave the guilty unpunished, inflicting the punishment of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generations. Right? So again, we have here quoting twice from Exodus 20, verse 5, all the way into Numbers 14, verse 18, where he reiterates that he will punish a father and his children for generations to come, which is absolutely just, I don't know, it's diabolical. I don't understand how these verses and these situations can come up but still be representative of a God that is all loving. I hear a lot of Christians liking it to parenthood, right? Oh, you gotta parent your children and discipline them. But me having a daughter, I would, if she were to bear children, because she's too young, but if she were to bear children, I couldn't imagine striking those children for things that she did in her past. I don't see the love in that at any point in time. Again, there's always the argument of like Jesus dying on the cross and changing these things, which is not necessarily true, because Jesus said himself that he was coming to uphold the laws, not to abolish them. Verbatim said that in the New Testament. So I don't know. They always filibuster amongst this kind of narrative with how things go. And then there's Genesis 3, where it talks about the original sin. Let's go there. I like to pull up scriptures, right? And it's the fall of mankind. And it's pretty much just all about how he punished us, all of humanity, right? Punished for Adam's sin. You know, he goes through who told you were naked. Again, an all-knowing God needing to ask the question of who told you were naked, right? And he says to the woman, I will greatly multiply your pain in childbirth. In pain you shall deliver children, yet your desire will be for your husband, and he shall rule over you. You know, and punishing Adam to till and the land. And he actually cursed the ground so that it would be hard, and making it that both thorns and thistles that shall grow for you, right? And until you return to the ground, right? So, you know, behold, the man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil. And now he might reach out with his hand and take fruit also from the tree of life and eat and live forever. You know, so he sent them out and he took away the tree and so on and so forth. You know, he drove man out, and we've been being punished ever since. I mean, they say that Christ died for our sins. However, if he truly died for our sins, then why are we still being punished for the said sins, right? Like, even now, like, childbirth didn't become easier for women after Jesus died on the cross. You know, we're still struggling with food, as far as, you know, it's not exactly easy labor to be a farmer, tilling land and doing food. So why was this generational punishment normalized as divine justice is my question, right? I don't see that to be of the characteristics of what I feel a loving God would be able to portray themselves as. You know, what does this say about God's sense of fairness? Not much, if you ask me, right? Not much, because if he truly was fair, he would punish the people who did it, right? He wouldn't continue to admonish and punish those who came afterwards. You know, I came across a live, like I said, I'm in these live streets listening and paying attention and taking notes. And one of the things that I saw that was really consistent was the fact that, you know, God it's kind of a failure, you know, when you think about it. He failed with Adam and Eve, right? Then he allowed them to proceed, but decided that his children were doing too much and flooded the earth, right? To start over. That was a start over. Then he has these 8 people repopulate the earth, and they're still evil. He's still not happy with them. He's still punishing them. He's still, you know, and at the end of the day, he created evil. Right? He even says it himself that he created evil. He created good. He created evil. So it's just the hypocrisy and the contradictions for me. If this was a human doing it, we definitely would not call it justice, right? It's not a just act at all in my mind to, again, punish others for other individual sins. I can't see that as a fair and just God. I can't see that as a God that is all loving, as they like to portray. And it's really sad and disheartening that we've been brainwashed into believing that this is love, so much so that we have it spread to our children through the way that we love them, right? With all these conditions and all these judgments. I don't know if you guys saw that TikTok video of the Christian, I think she's a pastor. What is her name? Jenny something? Is it Jenny? But she was pretty much in front of a group of children. And she told these children that they were sinners and that they deserved to die. these kids were like, what? Wow. Like, this is what they're saying. And one kid was like, wow, that's a lot. You know what I mean? Like, that's a lot. Like, and it is, right? Like, how do you sit there and tell children that they're sinners and that they deserve to die and that they deserve unalivement? Like, what are you telling these babies, right? Like, when learning and living and being non-perfect beings comes with mistakes, it's simply crazy to me that they would say that. Hey girl, hey Demetria, greetings, so glad you could join me, darling. But yeah, so for me, I don't know, that was the first part of this for me. Now we're gonna go into God's obsession with blood sacrifice. So we've seen plenty of times where instead of forgiveness through compassion or even accountability, God demands blood, animal or human, as the price for wrongdoing. And because we like to bring up scriptures, we're going to bring up these scriptures here. I'm trying to find a place to put my phone where I could see, but I could still like maintain the screen. Sorry if I keep moving. Oh, no, I don't want you to. There we go. Oh my gosh, y'all. 1 second. Maybe I put it over here. Yes, this works. I think this works. Just want to make sure, because my laptop is low, that it's charging. Hold on, y'all. Okay, so we're going to get into Leviticus 17, verse 11 for this one, right? Which is a lot of the laws that God laid out. There's about 600. I mean, people focus on the 10 commandments, but there's about over 600 laws that he actually made. So if we go to 17, verse 11. It says, for the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you on the altar to make atonement for your souls. For it is the blood by reason of life that makes atonement. And he goes on to say, therefore I said to the sons of Israel, no person among you may eat blood, nor may any stranger who resides among you eat blood. So when any one of the sons of Israel or from the strangers who reside among them while hunting catches an animal or bird which may be eaten, he shall pour out its blood and cover it with dirt. Right? So that's about that. But this is where this is how he's explaining how he wants his blood sacrifices to be given to him. Which in itself, I mean, just tells you, like, what is with the bloodlust, right? Like, I've come to believe that this God is actually a war God, right? It kind of reminds me, did you guys watch American Gods? And I believe it was the first episode in season 1, where they had landed their ship on a land and they could not pass the beachfront when they tried to arrow shot into them. They were looking for their God. They could not find their God. They felt that they had strayed far from their God, and they had to fight each other in a warlike context and shed blood amongst each other to get the wind going so that their God could see them, because their God was a war God and blood was needed in order to have this God work for you. Now, there are many gods that do take blood sacrifices, but we're talking about this God, right? And why this all-loving being would need to do such a thing in the first place. If you follow me to Judges 11, and we'll go to 29 through 40. This is where Jephthah sacrifices his daughter to fulfill a vow to God, right? And then God does not stop it. And if you remember, he stopped Abraham from blood sacrifice, doing the blood sacrifice of Isaac, but not with Jephthah. So if we go to 29 through 40, it kind of goes through that story. I wonder if I should just read the whole thing, because I don't want to be made to believe that this is like me taking it out of context. But let's see. I'll just go to 29 and 40 and see if it's enough. I do think it might be. It might be. It might be. I wanted to get to the heart of it anyways. So this is Jephthah's tragic vow. Now the Spirit of the Lord came upon Jephthah, and he passed through Gilead and Manasseh. Probably not saying that right. Then he passed through Mizpah of Gilead, and from Mizpah of Gilead he went on to the sons of Ammon. And Jephthah made a vow to the Lord and said, sorry, this is why I like to do it before. And Jephthah made a vow to the Lord and said, if you will indeed hand over to me the sons of Ammon, then whatever comes out the doors of my house to meet me when I return safely from the sons of Ammon, it shall be the Lord's, and I will offer it up as a burnt offering. So Jephthah crossed over to the sons of Ammon to fight against them, and the Lord handed them over to him. He inflicted a very great defeat on them from Aroer to the entrance of Minnith, 20 cities, and as far as Abel Keramim. So the sons of Ammon were subdued before the sons of Israel. But Jephthah came to his house at Mizpah, and behold, his daughter was coming out to meet him with tambourines and with dancing. And she was his one and only child. Beside her, he had no sons or daughters. So guess who got sacrificed, y'all? But we're going to read it, right? So when he saw her, he tore his clothes and said, "Oh, my daughter, you have brought me a disaster, and you are among those who trouble me, for I have given my word to the Lord, and I cannot take it back." So she said to him, "My father, you have given your word to the Lord. Do to me just as you have said, since the Lord has brought you vengeance on your enemies and the sons of Ammon." And she said to her father, "Let this thing be done for me. Allow me 2 months so that I may go away to the mountains and weep because of my virginity, I and my friends." Then he said, "Go." So he let her go for 2 months, and she left with her friends and wept on the mountains because of her virginity. This part is so odd to me, right? Because she's weeping for her virginity. And at the end of the 2 months, she returned to her father, who did to her what he had vowed. And she had no relations with a man. And it became a custom in Israel that the daughters of Israel went annually to commemorate the daughter of Jephthah to the Gileadite for 4 days in the year. So this is actually a custom that they still do in Judaism. I mean, if God wanted to stop it, because a lot of people said, oh, what I've seen in this argument is that God didn't accept it. We don't know that God accepted it, but he didn't stop it either. If he did not want a human sacrifice, then why didn't he stop it? He had 2 months to come to Jephthah and be like, "Bro, you don't need to do all that. You don't need to do all that. I just wanted to see if you would," just like Abraham did with Isaac, right? "I just wanted to see if you would be willing to do it, but you ain't really got to do this." A part of me thinks it's the misogynistic ideals of the Bible, why Jephthah's daughter was taken and Isaac was not. Isaac was the son who God had promised would come from many nations, where Jephthah's daughter was just some little virgin girl, right? So it is what it is. Greetings. I've been working these past few Sundays. It's hard. No worries, girl. Yeah, that lady Cray Cray telling those kids that Christianity is, it absolutely is. Good afternoon, Delight Worker. I'm going to start The American Gods tonight. I'm long overdue. It's a great series, especially when understanding the gods. I remember that part when they get to Ishtar, which is Easter, right? Because a lot of these pagan holidays were meshed with Christian holidays so that they could still do what they wanted, right? So Ishtar was a fertility goddess, and she shares the tradition of Easter with Jesus, and all these Jesuses came in, right? As we know, there are 45,000 denominations. So there are 45,000 versions of Christ. So it was just funny to me. It's a really good series. If you watch it with a critical lens on religion, you understand just why we have gods in the first place, right? It was in American Gods, it was the new gods versus the old gods, which are like, Odin and things like that, Ishtar, gods and goddesses of such of the old against the new gods, which was displayed as like, TV, music, and things like that. It's a really good series. It only lasted about 2 seasons, 3. I think it was 3 seasons. I don't know. It was a very amazing series. I agree. Christianity is definitely a cult. Too bad more people don't realize it. I feel like more people are realizing it now. I feel it has a lot to do. I am still somewhat spiritual. I definitely have a liking for astrology. The age of Aquarius, to me, that turning, right? People are waking up a lot more. You're seeing more people dissect and turn away. It's like I said before, for every one Christian who enters into the priesthood and things like that to learn, or even theology, 6 people come out atheist, right? So the old tricks, and it's not really working on us. Anybody who reads the text for what it is has that understanding. What I see Christians do is filibuster and flip-flop and create narratives. They add to the text to make it make sense for what they know and what they've been taught about God, and not simply just reading it for what it is, which is annoying, right? Because the text says what it says. What's funny about that to me is they will even go out and lie. They will lie to make their God correct. And the thing is, this Bible says that God hates liars. Like, I'm just like, you will send yourself to hell. Sorry, not to head, to hell. Because that's what the punishment is, just to stand up for Christ in such a way. I guess you think if you're lying for the Lord, it's different, but I don't think so. I think God said what he said. He meant what he said. He doesn't want you filibustering and misrepresenting it to make him seem like something he is not. And they do that quite often, right? So again, this story of Jephthah, they still do the ritual. Again, God could have not taken it, but he does end up burning his daughter. You could say that they didn't feel that way, but even Paul in the New Testament speaks highly of Jephthah and what he did. He became a judge afterwards, so he was rewarded. He got to live the life as a judge in the land. He lived a very wealthy life, and he kept his vow to God, at which was him. And the thing is, here's the thing that bothers me most. This God who is all-knowing would have known that who was greeting Jephthah when he came back from the war would have been his daughter. I couldn't imagine. His daughter sees her father coming home from the war. He's won. And she runs out to see him dancing with tambourines, celebrating her father's return, only to be told that she is to be doomed to be sacrificed. And her, being the gracious little girl that she is, tells her to keep that vow and just ask for a couple of months just to mourn. I don't really understand the mourning of the virginity part. I'm not going to lie. I'm not really sure contextually why that would be something that would be mourned. I don't really understand that concept. I actually the next time I see Rabbi Hannah online, I do want to ask her about this story and why the mourning of the virginity was a thing, because I would love to understand that perspective a little bit more. But yeah, so here we have this human blood sacrifice that he took, right? If he didn't take it, I'm sure Jephthah, one, wouldn't have been blessed the way that he was. He wouldn't have been seen as something to celebrate over. You know, they praise him for the sacrifice that he did. It was obviously something very difficult. It was his only child. It's never said that he's had any more children after that. So to me, again, it's evil. I'm sorry, it's evil. And again, what I hear mostly from Christians, it was the times. That's what they did in the times. Like, God is constrained to the times, right? Like, this is an all-powerful God. Why would he be constrained to these times? But we're going to move on to the next one, which is in Genesis 22, 1 through 18. Uh, 22. Okay, so this is again the offering of Isaac, right? we talked about this, and this is where the connection happens, right? Abraham and Isaac. God demands Abraham sacrifice Isaac as a test, and I actually want to maintain something because I learned something. This is why it's interesting to listen to Jewish scholars discuss, because the Christian Bible was kind of like taken. It's a ripoff of the Torah and the Talmud. So to hear their version of things is quite interesting. But let's get into this. I'm going to read 1 through 18. Right, and we're actually coming upon this in my Bible discussion, my Bible deconstruction that I have going on Patreon. I implore you to come join me. I think I have like 2 members, which I'm grateful for. But the first tier, you get all of the replays of the lives that I do. It's $4.44. And then the second tier, you get to enjoy the lives. I would really love more people to come join the lives so that we can have more of a question and an answer type vibe and just a really good discussion on what we've read and how we've deconstructed it, because we all read things and catch different things. And that tier is $6.66. Yes, 666. That number makes you uncomfortable. You're probably not ready to deconstruct with me. You know what I'm saying? But let's get into this text. So now it came about after these things that God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham. And he said, here I am. Then he said, take now your son and your only son whom you love, Isaac, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I will tell you. So Abraham got up early in the morning and saddled his donkey and took 2 of his young men with him and his son Isaac. And he split wood for the burnt offering and set out and went to the place of which God had told him. On the 3rd day, Abraham raised his eyes and saw the place from a distance. Then Abraham said to this young man, stay here with the donkey, and I and the boy will go over there, and we will worship and return to you. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it on his son Isaac, and he took in his hand the fire and the knife. So the 2 of them walked together. Isaac spoke to his father, and Abraham said, my father. And he said, here I am, my son. And he said, look, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? So this dude is really walking him into a trap. He doesn't realize what's going on. He's walking with his dad. He doesn't realize that he's the offering. Abraham told him nothing. Right? Abraham said, God will provide for himself the lamb for the burnt offering, my son. So the 2 of them walked together. Then they came to the place of which God had told him. And Abraham built the altar there and arranged the wood and bound his son Isaac and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. And Abraham reached around his hand and took the knife to slaughter his son. But the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, here I am. And he said, do not reach out your hand against the boy and do not do anything to him. For now I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. And that's the thing. Isaac is not his only son. at this time before Isaac was born, right? And we just went over this in the Bible deconstruction. Sarah had him lay with her handmaid and bear him a son, Ishmael. But okay, I'm telling you, obviously, it is what it is. So it's not his only son. But then Abraham raised his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him was a ram caught in the thicket by its horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up as burnt offering in the place of his son. And Abraham named that place, the Lord will provide, as what is said to this day, on the mountain of the Lord it will be provided. Then the angel of the Lord called to Abraham a second time from heaven and said, by myself I have sworn, declares the Lord, because you have done this thing and have not withheld your son, your only son. Indeed, I will greatly bless you, and I will greatly multiply your seed as the star of the heavens and as the sand, which is on the seashore, and your seed shall possess the gate of their enemies. And in your seed, all the nations of the earth shall be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice. So we see here that the Christian God stopped this sacrifice. What I learned from the Jewish text, and I can't wait, because I actually applied for a subscription to become a nerd in Thinker. That's what her name is on TikTok, because she has so many resources. But it was very interesting when she shared this in the Talmud, or in the actual original scriptures of this story. The God came to Sarah first and asked for the sacrifice, and she refused. So then he went to Abraham, and Abraham went behind his wife's back and took Isaac out. And Abraham's wife Sarah prayed to God to stop it. And in that book, it was a demonstration, because they actually believe that the Christian God is not the God. He has parents, Elohim and Asherah, I think. I might be wrong about that, but he has parents. And the parents gave the Jews to him as his people. So it's not that he's a God of the world and the only God, right? And this is shown in different texts where there's like a divine council of God that God takes over. He takes over the council of gods, right? So again, we have another, in another part, we have another acknowledgement of God acknowledging other gods around him. He just happens to be a very jealous one. But so that, and apparently it was his father that sent the angel to stop it, not the God of Abraham itself. It's very interesting. I don't want to go too much into it, because I haven't read it and done enough research for myself. I have to be a nerd on Thinker's group for at least a month before I get into the Discord and get access to these resources. But I can't wait to be able to discuss these things with you guys as we further deconstruct over here and learn more. So again, we have here where he did stop the sacrifice, but then again, it comes to pass, like, why did he stop this one and not the other one if he was really not into blood sacrifice? I think the original story that was kind of like run through for me on that live kind of shows you why. It's because God didn't stop him. He expected it wholeheartedly. And I'm also wondering why God had to keep promising the same promise to Abraham. Before he had Isaac, he promised him the nations. Here in this, he again promises nations for not doing what he was supposed to do. It was just like he's constantly testing him to see if he's actually going to give him the nation, right? Like he's constantly, it's weird. Abraham is problematic at best. He actually wreaks a lot of kind of havoc. One of the stories that pissed me off about him that we read in the Bible deconstruction, it was last week, when he actually had Sarah lie and say that she was his sister. The Pharaoh took a liking to her, and he allowed this to happen. And Pharaoh thought he was getting a new wife. He thought Sarah was beautiful. And then God curses him and his household and sent plagues to Pharaoh's household. And I'm kind of off, and I'll get back to the story. But it had my wheels turning, this story, right? Because I'm just remembering things. I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense. And here we are. So in that story, plagues, and the Pharaoh's like, why did you tell me this was your wife? Like, your God is wreaking havoc on me now because of your lie. And I'm just like, how come God didn't know about the lie, right? Because God had told Abraham, before he became Abraham, he was Abram. God changed his name. Abram and Sarai, who is now Sarah. He changed both their names. I don't know why. But it was actually because of a blessing or something that was coming. But anyways, why didn't he know about the deal he made? Because God had told him that whoever blesses you I will bless them, and whoever curses you, I will curse them. But he thought that the Pharaoh laying with Abraham's wife and taking him on was a sin, and he cursed the Pharaoh for doing it. But the Pharaoh thought that was Abraham's sister. He actually gave Abraham several gifts. He gave him oxen, he gave him camels, he gave him sheep, he gave him several things, almost like he was giving it to him for like a bridal, like with those bridal things that they have to do. Can't think of the word right now. So it's just like, again, it's the contradictions, it's the lies, it's all of it, the hypocrisy. But I'm off track, and I'm about to get back on track, right? So why did God ask that for the first place, right? When we're getting back into why does he need blood sacrifices? So if you follow me to John 3:16, actually we'll go to, should we do John or Isaiah first? Dowry, thank you. Thank you, Reasonable Rue. Thank you, dowry, yes. Jesus. Thank you so much. I was struggling. But again, he has, so as a dowry, it's almost like Pharaoh was giving him a dowry for Sarah, right? Like he gave him all these gifts, right? And then Sarah went to live with him, because the whole reason why Abraham had him do this, had Sarah do this, is because he felt like Sarah was beautiful and that they would kill him. The Egyptians would kill him and take his wife. So he's like, just say you're my sister to make things safe. And allowed the Pharaoh to believe this, and allowed the Pharaoh to lay with his wife, and allowed the gifts and took the gifts that the Pharaoh gave him, right? Thank you. Yes, I appreciate you guys. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, this God is insane to me. He's definitely not all knowing. And I actually had the same rabbi said that they actually don't believe that God is all knowing. They don't have those things. It's a stipulation that Christians have created to create their own God when they took these stories and mixed in their own and created this religion. They didn't, take it all forward. So it's very interesting to hear both sides. I'm super excited for this, y'all. I'm super excited for me to be able to get more research on this, because I do find it very interesting. But yeah, so actually, you know what? I'll just go by how I have it written down. So let's go to John 3:16. And I already know what it is. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever should believe in him shall not perish, blah, blah, blah. But we're going to read it. And then we're also going to read Isaiah 53, verse 10. I feel like falling in love. I had that Beyonce song in my head. It came out of nowhere, but it is what it is. Let's go, John. And then 3. Thank you. And then 16. Yep. For God so loved the world that he gave his only son, so that everyone who believes in him will not perish but have eternal life. Then it says, for God did not send the Son into the world to judge the world, but so that the world might have been saved through him. The one who believes in him is not judged. The one who does not believe in him has judged already, because he has not believed in the name of the only Son of God. And this is the judgment, that the light has come into the world, and people love the darkness rather than the light, for their deeds were evil. But the point is that he gave up his own son. Now, this for me, it didn't make much sense. Like, Think about it. Let's think about this together, y'all. I'm God. I create a world. I create humanity. I know I have the forethought and the foresight to see what's going to happen. So I create the problem. And then in order to fix the problem, I impregnate a virgin girl with myself, cosplay in a meat suit, growing up to sacrifice myself to solve the problem that I caused. Is it adding up for y'all? Is it adding up for y'all? It's not adding up for me. And that's literally what he did. Does not add up for me. Again, I was telling my daughter that I have secondhand embarrassment that they were able to get this over on me. Of course, I was born into it. So what else could I have known, right? Like, seriously, like, how could I have, like, I believe and everybody around me believes this thing. So why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I too believe it, right? Thing about me is that I've always, and I've shared this before, that I've always been the type to question. I would get shut down a lot as a child, which kind of made me the introvert that I am. But as I got older, I got used to like speaking out. I've shared this before, but like when I was younger, I started rebelling. I think it was after my friends got pregnant and how they treated her. And I just thought, this is not Christianity. And I started doing rebellious things, especially according to my own church doctrine. I was raised Seventh-day Adventist. So I remember, like, for them, like, you have to dress to the nine in the church tee. I would go in jeans. I would go in whatever. And I'd be like, God said, come as you are. So I'm coming as I am. I don't want to wear the dresses. I don't want to do the things. I'm coming with my baseball cap, my jeans, and my shirt. You know what I mean? And I'm looking casual as fuck. They hated it. Sometimes I would go to other churches and they would greet me thinking that I was someone just off the road. Maybe they wanted to convert me. And I'm like, oh no, I'm Christian. I'm Seventh-day Adventist. And they'd give me the dirty look and the stank eye. Like, why would you come like that if you know, like, you know better than to come like that? And it's just like the judgment. And I was like, see, this is why, blah, blah, blah. So I did tap into that rebellious spirit. But let's get into verse 10. So, but the Lord desired to crush him, causing him grief. If he renders himself as a guilt offering, he will see his offering. He will prolong his days, and the good pleasure of the Lord will prosper in his hand. As a result of the anguish of his soul, he will see it and be satisfied by his knowledge to the righteous one. My servant will justify the many, for he will bear their wrongdoings. Therefore, I will allot him a portion with the great, and he will divide the plunder with the strong, because he poured out his life unto death, and it was counted with wrongdoers. Yet he himself bore the sin of many and interceded for the wrongdoings. So Isaiah is actually where you'll find the prophecy of Jesus, right? I really do want to get into that more. There's a verse in Isaiah, I believe it's Isaiah 60, where they talk about what heaven will be like on earth. And if you read it, it's not what you think. It's not heaven on earth, at least not for the Gentiles, which would be us, because we are not the Israelites. We are not the Jews. The Gentiles will actually be serving the Israelites. We'll be building. We'll be put to work. We'll be built. Those houses, those streets of gold, they're paved, and we're construction workers. Okay, this is another reason why I've decided I'd rather not go to heaven. I don't want to be working under the Israelites, building up their houses and their streets and shit. The fuck I look like? You think I went through what I went through on this earth to be that in the new earth? Just take me out, burn me for sure. Like, I'll be alright. Like. I made a joke, and I know people will say this, but I say that, I feel like if I go to hell, I'll be like top demon. Like, I'm just going to be like, you guys ever watch American Horror Stories? And Papa Legba comes and takes the girl into hell, and she's just like, oh, I love it here, when they tried to get her back. And she's like, I love it here in hell. Like, I get to do what I want. And like, that'll be me. Who do you want me to torture for you? Because What role do I need to play to get in good here? Like, I know I'm terrible. I'm terrible. But anyways, so when we look at this, the questions that come to mind to me is like, why does this all-powerful God need blood to forgive? Like, what's up with that? This all-powerful, all-loving God, why does he need blood to forgive? What kind of love demands that torture and murder of innocent people is required? How is this different from pagan sacrifices and cultures that the Christians condemn, right? They condemn these things. Not to mention that they say that, oh God, you don't need to do sacrifices anymore after Jesus died. That's what he died. We didn't have to do sacrifices. However, it's been pointed out to me that Paul, in fact, continues doing sacrifices. The thing about Paul for me is the fact that I don't think Jesus would have fucked with him. High key. Remember, Paul was not one of the original disciples. He came several years later, if not hundreds of years. Don't quote me on that. But he came several years after Jesus. Jesus did not know this man. He did not choose him. A couple of reasons why I think that Jesus wouldn't have effed with him is because of the fact that he was a Pharisee. Jesus hated those niggas. Okay? He hated the Pharisees. And Paul outright contradicts a lot of what Jesus says. Like when Christians are battling on these panels, they bring up Paul a lot to justify, but when someone is talking about Jesus, and I'm like, well, who do you follow? Jesus or Paul? Because Jesus said this and Paul said that, and they contradict each other. But if you're a Christian, then shouldn't you be going by the word of God, by the word of the returned Messiah, and not Paul, who came afterwards, never met Jesus, and apparently saw him in a vision while he was in the desert with two other people, which to me gives hallucination. Right? Like he contradicts even the council of Christianity in his times. There was a debate about whether Christians could be saved by grace alone, or did they have to do the work? And there was this, it was Paul who went back. And even though they made a decision, Paul went back and gave another decision. I don't want to give too much because I know I'm paraphrasing, but these are some of the stories. So, okay. But let's get into Jesus, right? Let's get into this because he's the ultimate innocent, which according to Christians, that was punished and sacrificed. This is a man who sat and cried unto God, his Father, to take this cup from him. He was so anxious that he was sweating blood in the garden when he went to go speak to God. And God did not take the cup from him, which to me is just like, what happened to Jesus's free will? You know what I'm saying? That makes sense, y'all? What happened to Jesus's free will? Because he said, take this cup from me, please. Okay? Please. And it was a no. You gonna do what I told you to do. You gonna do what I sent you to do. Anyways. So we're gonna get into it. Even Jesus, supposedly perfect and sinless, is punished to satisfy God. Can I also say that it's also weird to me because he got to rise again. So is it really a sacrifice? He didn't stay dead. He rose after he was dead for like 3 days. Right? Then he got to be alive again. And then he got to go to heaven. I mean, where's the sacrifice really? I'm just saying. So, again, from the Christian perspective, he is punished to satisfy God. Like in Hebrews, right? It says, without shedding of the blood, there is no forgiveness. So we're going to head back over to actually Isaiah 53:10. We did do it again, right? Which references that. But we just read it, so I'm not going to read it again. But if we go to Hebrews and Matthew, we'll see this again. Hold on, let's go to Hebrews 9, verse 22. Actually, I just read Hebrews 9, verse 22. My notes are all over the place, y'all. I'm sorry. But I am going to pull it up anyways. because I like to show my receipts in the videos so that those can't say that I'm just not talking out of my ass, but I'm actually taking what it says in Hebrews. And it's chapter 22. Verse 22. And almost all things are cleansed with blood, according to the law, and without the shedding of blood, there is no forgiveness. Therefore, it was necessary for the copies of the things in the heaven to be cleansed, and these things, but the heavenly things themselves, with better sacrifice than these. For Christ did not enter a holy place made by hands, a mere copy of the true one, but into heaven itself, now to appear in the presence of God for us. Nor was it that he would offer himself often, as the high priest enters the holy place year by year with blood that is not his own. So here again, you see that even in the New Testament, they speak of blood sacrifices being needed and wanted in order for forgiveness. We also have Matthew 27. Matthew 27. Here we go. I'm just going down. No. What is happening? Have to do it manually. Okay, Matthew 27. So this is Judas's remorse. And it goes into Jesus's brutal crucifixion and God's silence throughout it. Now, when the morning came, all the chief priests and the elders of the people conferred together against Jesus to put him to death. And they bound him and they led him away and handed him over to Pilate, the governor. Then when Judas, who had betrayed him, saw that he had been condemned, he felt remorse and returned the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and elders, saying, I have sinned by betraying innocent blood. But they said, what is that to us? You shall see to it yourself. And he threw the pieces of silver onto the temple sanctuary and left. And he went away and hanged himself. Can we just pause here and talk about how Judas was simply fulfilling God's prophecy. And he was riddled with guilt, so much so that he took his own life. Without Judas's betrayal, Jesus would not have been sacrificed. This was all a part of God's plan and according to God's plan. Even Jesus, he told him, one of ye shall betray me. Right? So they knew it was coming. They knew it was one of them. And yet Judas, who was used to help this prophecy come to fruition, is riddled so much that he takes his own life. I think that's so sad. I think that's so sad. Like, yes, he betrayed Jesus, but it was ordered in the steps of what needed to happen for this sacrifice to be made for our apparent sins. So I just kind of find that sad now when I read that. The chief priest took the pieces of silver and said, it is not lawful to put them in the temple treasury, since it is money paid for blood. And they conferred together, and with the money bought the potter's field as a burial place for strangers. For this reason, that field has been called the field of blood to this day. Then that which has spoken through Jeremiah the prophet was fulfilled. And they took the 30 pieces of silver, the price of the one whose price had been set by the sons of Israel, and they gave them potter's field, just as the Lord directed me. So now Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor questioned him, saying, "So you are the king of the Jews?" And Jesus said to him, "It is as you say." And while he was being accused by the chief priests and elders, he did not offer any answer. Then Pilate said to him, "Do you not hear how many things they are testifying against you?" And he still did not answer him in regard to even a single charge, so the governor was greatly amazed. Now at the Passover feast, the governor was accustomed to release for the people any one prisoner whom they wanted. And at that time, they were holding a notorious prisoner called Barabbas. So when the people gathered together, Pilate said to them, "Whom do you want me to release for you, Barabbas or Jesus who is called Christ?" For he knew that it was because of envy that they had handed him over. And while he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent him a message saying, "See that you have nothing to do with that righteous man, for last night I suffered greatly in a dream because of him." But the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowds to ask for Barabbas and to put Jesus to death. And the governor said to them, "But wait, why would anybody or any spirit come upon his wife to tell him not to do the thing that he was sent to do?" When I tell you that this God is the author of confusion, why are you bothering this woman when what you needed to be carried out is being carried out? Why are you haunting her in her dreams? You know what I'm saying? He's like, don't have any. She came to him and said, "Don't have anything to do with that righteous man." She thought he was righteous, and she suffered greatly in a dream because of him. Why God would do that is insane to me. But they all said, crucify him, right? Because they were asking for Barabbas. But he said, "Why? What evil has he done?" Yet they kept shouting all the more, saying, "Crucify him!" Now that Pilate saw that he was accomplishing nothing, but rather that a riot was starting, he took water and washed his hands in front of the crowd, saying, "I am innocent of this man's blood. You yourselves shall see." And all the people replied, "His blood shall be on us and our children." That's crazy. I would never do that shit. I would never call that upon myself. Then he released Barabbas before them. But after having Jesus flogged, he handed him over to be crucified. Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the praetorium and gathered the whole Roman cohort to him. And they stripped him and they put a red cloak on him. And after twisting together a crown of thorns, they put it on his head and put a reed in his right hand. And they knelt down before him and mocked him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" And they spit on him and took the reed and beat him on the head. And after they had mocked him, they took the cloak off him and put his own garments back on him and led him away to crucify him. As they were coming out, they found a man of Cyrene named Simon, whom they compelled to carry his cross. And then they get into the crucifixion itself. And when they came to a place called Golgotha, I don't know if I'm saying that right, which means place of a skull, they gave him wine mixed with bile to drink, and after tasting it, he was unwilling to drink it. And when they had crucified him, they divided his garments among themselves by casting lots. And sitting down, they began to keep watch over him there. And above his head, they put up the charge against him, which read, "This is Jesus, King of the Jews." And that time, 2 rebels were being crucified with him, one on the right and one on the left. And those passing by were speaking abusively to him, shaking their heads and saying, "You who are going to destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days, save yourself. If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross." In the same way, the chief priests also, along with the scribes and elders, were mocking him and saying, "He saved others. He could not save himself. He is the King of Israel. Let him now come down from the cross, and we will believe in him. He had trusted in God. Let God rescue him now, if he takes pleasure in him, for he said, 'I am the Son of God.'" And the rebels who had been crucified with him were also insulting him in the same way. Now from the 6th hour, darkness fell upon all the land until the 9th hour. And about the 9th hour, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani. That is, my God, why have you forsaken me? Which is odd because you know the sacrifice. God did not, this was the plan. You already had begged him to take the cup from you, and he said no. I don't know, y'all. It's weird to me. And some of those who were standing there when they heard it said, this man is calling for Elijah. And immediately one of them ran, taking a sponge. He filled it with sour wine and put it on a reed and gave him a drink. But the rest of them said, let us see if Elijah comes to save him. And Jesus cried out again with a loud voice and gave up his spirit. And behold, the veil of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom, and the earth shook and the rocks were split. Also the tombs were open, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. Wait! So the dead were raised? How come I didn't hear this before? And coming out of the tombs after his resurrection, they entered the holy city and appeared to many. Now as for the centurion, and those who were with him keeping guard over Jesus, when they saw the earthquake and the other things that were happening, they became extremely frightened and said, truly this was the Son of God. And many women were there watching from a distance, who had followed Jesus from Galilee while caring for him. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of the sons of Zebedee. Now, when it was evening, a rich man from Arimathea, I don't know if I have to read all this, because I kind of feel like the sacrifice happened. You see what happened to him and everything that he went through to serve his father, to fulfill this prophecy. And again, why was it necessary? Right? It's so self-righteous to, again, create this world as it is. Fail not once, twice, technically 3 times if you're counting this sacrifice, because we still have sin. The world is still evil, and yes, he's supposed to return, but why are we waiting so long? And why does that need to happen? If our sins have been forgiven, then why is sin still present? I don't know. For me, it doesn't make much sense. So for me, it was like, did God have to kill his own son? Or was that a system he created himself, which is what I'm saying, right? And what does it say about divine morality, that God would only forgive us if an innocent person is tortured and murdered? It just seems very grim. It doesn't seem very loving. It doesn't seem very Christ-like. It doesn't seem to portray the God that I was taught God was growing up. How do you guys feel about this? Right? How do you guys feel about this? So just to recap everything, over and over, the Bible shows us a God who refuses to hold the guilty accountable. And instead, he spills the blood of the innocent to maintain control. That is my point. I'm going to just end it right there with that, because I kind of went through everything I wanted to come through. It's an hour and almost 30 minutes we're in. But what do you guys feel about this? How do you feel about that? And what do you think about that? Let me know in the comment section. I know there's only 5 of us here. Thank you for joining me. I would love to continue this in the comment section. I don't know if you want to, I'm going to wait and see. Maybe I'll wait about 5 minutes, because I know there's a delay. If you guys have anything to say or anything to add before I end the live, let me know this series. Like, so this series is like, this series, The Christian God is Evil, is not meant to like really attack. I guess it is. This is not really meant to attack Christianity, but I guess it is. But for me, it's more about truth, not comfort, right? Like, and I feel that in Christianity, they they weigh and value comfort over truth a lot. So much so that they've allowed themselves to take a step back, put their empathy aside for what is going on in the world, because they feel that all of this is leading up to God coming back, that it excuses them not fighting and standing for what's right now, right? Because it's all a part of the plan. It's all part of God's plan, and they want Jesus to come back. So they sit back and they wait, and they allow these things, and they don't stand up for truth. They stay quiet in these truths because they believe that this is ordained by God. And I think that it's created a very awful space for us as Christians, not us, because I'm no longer a Christian, but for them as Christians, as me, as coming out as like from Christianity. And I don't know, it just makes me really sad to see them being brought these facts, but just having this, what's the word I'm looking for? Indifference, because of what they believe is going to happen, you know. But you guys can join me again on Patreon. Let me actually just play my little video on that while I see if you guys have anything to say in the comments.
Welcome to the sacred space I've been building. A fairy-touched refuge for deconstructing harmful teachings and reclaiming our inner power. This isn't just a Patreon. It's an enchanted meeting ground where curiosity is holy and questioning what we are taught is an act of liberation. Together, we unpack Bible stories, deconstruct religious control, and make space for the divine voice within ourselves. If you've ever questioned what you were taught or felt like your questions were dangerous, this space was made with you in mind. Join me on Patreon and let's do this sacred work together, unlearning, reclaiming, and rising in full fairy power.
Oh, sorry, y'all. 1 second. Minimize. Okay, escape. I don't know why things got weird. Okay, here we go. How do I get rid of you? See, I'm removed. Okay. So, Lady, oh, thank you. I'm glad you came across my channel too. I'm loving how I'm finding more like-minded individuals. I think deconstructing, especially within the Black community, can be very lonely. There's not a lot of Black atheists. I mean, it's growing in numbers day by day, as I see. Like, that's why I enjoy the TikTok panel so much, because I can see that there is a difference, that we are waking up slowly but surely, and I appreciate that. I appreciate this, and I don't know. Like, I definitely feel you, because it's hard to come out as an atheist in a community that is so beholden to a religion that was really meant to, and it's written in history. These white men YT men have said it. They wrote it in letters that this was the purpose of giving us this Bible and this book, right? Was to keep us enslaved through the mind, and that it's worked so well. Even now that we are dissecting that, people are still fighting against it. It's insane to me. I don't know, but I'm glad that I started talking about it on this channel, because it let me know that, wow, there's a place for me, and there's a place for people like us, and I can help create one of those spaces, because it's hard. It's hard to deconstruct and be on your own in these thoughts and feelings. So I'm glad that you're here as well. You guys, I don't see any other messages, so I'll end it right here. I love you. I believe in you. You've got this. Please remember to like the video, share it, leave your comments below. And I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for the 6 people who, I think I had a high of like 8 people. So I want to thank all of you. Oh, and I think I'm going to do another commentary as I'm still testing out this platform. It's Black Atheists versus Black Christians. It was on Jubilee, and I wanted to do a commentary on it. So I'm thinking tomorrow, I don't know what time, but if you're interested in seeing that, we did a similar one before. It wasn't Jubilee, it was something else, but I thought this was more interesting because it seemed to be women, Christian women against atheist women. This is just Black atheists against Black Christians. It's a mixed group, so we can hear from both the men and the women. And I think it's going to be a little bit of, we're going to see it. I'm interested to see where the conversation goes. So look out for that. I will probably post it. I don't know. It might be impromptu because I have quite a day tomorrow. But I'm thinking evening time, maybe like around 8:30, 8:45-ish. So if you're interested, again, you want to click the notification bell, okay? Because that's a great way so that you don't miss out on any new videos or content that I post. But yeah, it's been great going over this with you guys. Thank you for keeping me company and just chatting with me today. Yeah, thanks. And I mentioned this at the beginning of the video, but I want to mention it at the end. I have gotten monetized. So there's memberships now here on YouTube. For $2.99, you can just be a great member. You get access to stickers and such stuff like that. And I can't remember what else. Jeez, I can't even remember what else. But I'm going to do a separate post about that. There's also a second tier that is, what is it? I can't even remember right now. I literally just put it together, and I don't have my notes in front of me. So forgive me for that. But you can actually check. If you click join, it will tell you about it. And I'll talk to you all soon. Thank you for coming through once again. Bye.